Welcome back to day 3 of the League of Legends World Championship live from Los Angeles. And it's now time to discuss, after the break, SKT versus TSM. SKT T1 coming up with a very big win there. Picks and bans kind of went as everybody expected. We figured we'd see a few picks go this way. Kind of interesting that they did get Ari on the side of SKT, but the early dives, a lot of vocal points coming out from you, Crepo. What were your thoughts on that early dive from Team Solo Mid?
When we were watching the match, I just started getting really excited and at the same time really angry because TSM was playing the better conceptual early game. They were really playing the game better. Like when it's pure methodical and pure in your head, they were playing it better.
What points make you think that?
Okay, SKT1 failed already against OMG with the 3v1 dive, so they kind of adapted their strategy to now let Lee Sin dive 3 against 1 as well. But it still was really slow for Lee to get there. And then what Dyrus did was really smart. He said, well, okay, you're going to dive me. I know you're going to dive me. I'm going to move away, take my tower. I don't care. That's the correct play from Dyrus. At the bottom lane, Renekton didn't do that. I'm not sure if that was a choice, but I think they just defaulted to try and survive under the tower and try and mirror. But then TSM actually had the chance there, right there, to dive Renekton, kill him, take his tower while Dyrus wasn't there. And they screwed it up. Xpecial, with all credit, Xpecial played a really nice match, has really nice Shen knows this, so I don't want to bash him at all, but right there he took tower aggro too early, he took 1 or 2 tower shots when there was no damage coming out from his teammates on the Renekton, which should always happen. So the ideal 3v1 dive is support taking tower aggro, the double buff and the other laner hitting as hard as you can. Max damage on Renekton, resetting tower aggro, Corki will Valkyrie out or Elise will repel when it switches, kill him, take tower, snowball game.
Yeah, and just going off that, Xpecial, just mechanically, TSM got outplayed, but I feel like like Crepo said, their strategy was on point. Impact should have died there in 3v1 dive, just because Xpecial didn't even exhaust, played it, they just played it not so good. And also, you can tell how uncharacteristic it is of Korean games for there to be a 3v1 dive, because when I watched the dual lane on SKTT1 side, they got the tower, and they allowed Dyrus to freeze. They should have pushed it all the way to the tier 2 tower and let the cannon minion reset. But when I watched them recall, I'm like, there's a cannon minion there on their side. Dyrus can freeze the cannon minion and just permanently just sit there. And all Dyrus has to do is not die, which is exactly what he did. He died at the worst possible time. All you have to do there is just sit there. You'll draw jungle pressure for minutes of the game, crucial minutes for Lee Sin to make plays. All you have to do is just not die. And I just feel like TSM got mechanically outplayed, but SKT1's strategy, especially in the 3v1 dive kind of early game that NA is used to, they played it, it's not so good.
Yeah, they didn't play it so well, but I do agree with you guys that it could have gone huge in the early game for TSM. But that pressure, yeah, they didn't freeze the lane, but then they had pressure across all 3 lanes with Impact shoving, and especially in mid and bot, they were slowly chipping away on those turrets over time as well.
At the same time, okay, you get pressure in all 3 lanes, but how about you actually push in a wave? You let a level 1 Rumble push you back, because the dive failed. I can get it if both of them are in the same position, sure, you can pressure all you want, but that was a level 3 Renekton because of a failed dive against a level 1 Rumble. The wave would have reset, okay, level 2 then. If you then have jungle pressure on him, he dies, and it was really poor play by SKT1 strategy-wise, and I really hope they fix it. As you said, they have a really good coach, so you could already see the little improvement in switching from the no 3v1 at all to make it into a 3v1 if they have lane swaps. Hopefully they recognize now that, hey, Dyrus did something really smart, and they can adapt it in the next game.
Another thing I want to point out is just the fact why Caitlyn has kind of fallen out in North America. Not she's still a pretty common pick, but she's not overwhelmingly common as in other regions. If you do the 2v1 swap, she's not actually that great in a 3 versus 1 situation. She doesn't do that much damage, and she's only really good at pushing minions. She's not really so great at killing champions. And she's just as good as every other AD at killing towers. When you finally swap back into the 2v2 lane, you allow Corki, who's going to hit level 6, to bully you in lane. And that's exactly what you saw. Corki Sona has so much more control over that lane than a Caitlyn, because at any time they can just kill you. And if TSM didn't misplay some of those ganks, it could have gone really bad.
Actually had a double kill there at bottom once.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously once SK Telecom did get that lead, it was just kind of the team we're used to seeing. The team we've seen over in the OGN, all the crisp Korean play. They got the ward control, they got the right picks, they played the game extremely conservatively, and they were able to come out on top. But yeah, the early on portion of the game, crazy.
Yeah, and that could be, we were talking about this as well, is that could be a big weakness for them moving forward, because if they can't shore up their early game play against very good teams that can actually take that snowball and run with it, it's going to cause them to lose. That said, if we go look at the mid game right there, I really liked Bengi's pretty early oracles. He got control over the jungle in an extremely effective way. And to TSM's credit as well, they knew they were facing that pick composition. They knew exactly how SK Telecom was going to play that. And in fact, they survived longer than many Korean teams do against SK Telecom when they're trying to do that. They knew that their jungle was warded. They felt that pressure on the map, and they didn't make bad rotations through their jungle and allow SK T1 to catch them until pretty late on when they decided to go for that dragon fight, and Odd One got a little bit out of position at the front of the pack.
Yeah, the DFG really caught him off guard there.
Yeah,
exactly. TSM played this game conceptually so well, except so they failed a dive, then Dyrus escaped top lane, but died right after. So he probably was in the mindset, hey, they didn't kill me now, they can never kill me. And so that gave them a huge lead on the top lane, a lot of pressure there. Then Odd One did a really smart gang going through the jungle, knowing that they had triple pink ward at one point invested in the river. Allowed Odd One to go behind bot lane. Pumandu dropped immediately, and then Odd One unfortunately failed his flash over the wall, which didn't make his rappel connect.
Double F.
You kind of have to give it to SK T1 though, because when it does get to that mid game that they're really comfortable with, and they're not in this weird situation of 3v1 and lane swaps and whatnot, they actually do really well controlling the game. They control the enemy jungler with pinks. They look for those picks. They do everything pretty much like 100% correctly. But I feel like in the next game, if TSM just shapes up a little bit mechanically, they actually have a really good shot at beating SK T1.
Which is kind of surprising.
And I'm so interested now, exactly. That's why we're all very surprised watching this game, because the way the different regions' games and closed systems are really interacting with each other. Because I almost feel like after watching this game, Korea in general was only worried about getting here, but not necessarily exposed to the things the other regions were doing. And even though once they adapt, maybe we'll see a whole different game, but they have to make that adaptation.
Absolutely.
First impressions, the early turret diving game is the game that's beating everyone until they find a defense for it.
All right, Crepo, final thoughts, because I know you guys could talk forever on this.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 points. Just like we went through this. The only reason I'm so adamant about it is because we went through this phase. Like we were horrible at 3v1 dives. So in scrims we had to reiterate the process so many times, so you can really pinpoint. Second, I just want to point out what Double F told me during the game. Is like Korea has like a lot of gentlemen's agreements, it seems, where they really want to find out who's the best skill-based player.
Yeah, and I want to say, too, we did actually used to see a lot of this early diving. I mean, that's where Najin Sword's do dive mantra comes from. But that was back in Champions Winter. And ever since then, the dives have gone down significantly. And guess what? SK Telecom wasn't a team until Champions Spring. So this isn't something they've ever really had to deal with. So it is a unique flaw that many older teams, and if we look at Najin Sword, I'm sure they'll do a lot better against it. Coming into the later stages of the tournament. But SK Telecom, I agree, they've got to shore up that early game.
All right, with the final words from our analysts, and after 3 days of games, let's see where the Group A teams stand heading into the second half of the group stage. OMG is sitting in first at 4-0, and SKT now alone in second place at 3-1.
Team Seoul Mid falls back into third place with their loss to SKT, while the Lemon Dogs and Gaming Gear round out the bottom half of the standings.
All right, and with today's 5 games in our match history, let's take a look at how close the 4 of you are catching the OP viewers. With these stats at 16-4, the viewers are looking like Cloud9 of predictions. So on top of that one, I got a little head shake there from Double F. No. Well, in the middle of the pack reminds me a lot of the European summer split. Everybody just tightly packed into the same score. Crepo, the good news is,
Nice.
We still have 20 more games, Crepo, so you're not out of it yet. You can still...
Of course I can.
You just keep going with your evil ways.
I think I'm just going to match whatever these guys do, and then at least I'm not as horribly far behind.
That's why we have to hide the picks.
We have hidden ballots for this, guys.
That's
Put them in the hat, pick them out later. The first of 5 rematches in this double round-robin format feature the teams of Group B. Up first, it's going to be Ozone looking for revenge against Gambit. And then Expeke and ManCloud step back into the Rift for round 2 of Fnatic versus Vulcan.
After that, Mineski looks to turn their World Championship tournament around when they battle Gambit. That's followed by Fnatic versus Ozone, and in the finale, it will be Vulcan against Mineski. Day 4 kicks off on Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific, which is Friday at 4 a.m. Central European Summer Time.
Absolutely, and that does it from the 5 of us.